The Great Hall of Nexus Prime was quiet, too quiet. Ambassador Jiho Kim sat in his chair and looked around the massive room. The walls were made of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Above him, the ceiling showed stars from 1,000 different worlds. It was beautiful, but today it felt cold. Jiho had been coming to this place for 5 years. He knew every corner, every sound, every smell. The air always tasted like metal and something sweet that he could never name. Today was different. Today, the other aliens would not look at him. Next to Jiho sat Nari Park. She was his military advisor and his oldest friend. They had worked together for 20 years. Nari was small but tough. Her black hair was pulled back tight, and her dark eyes missed nothing. She was writing notes on her tablet, but Jiho knew she was really watching the room. Around them sat representatives from 200 alien species. There were the tall, thin Velkers with their silver skin. The round Zephyrians floated in their water tanks. The insect-like Thaxans clicked and buzzed quietly. All of them had been friends once. All of them had worked with humans. Now none of them would meet his eyes. At the front of the room stood the speaker's platform. It was carved from one giant piece of black stone. Council Speaker Veltar stood there like a judge. He was a Velker, 8 feet tall with 4 arms and skin that changed colors with his mood. Right now his skin was dark red. That meant anger. Veltar raised all 4 of his arms. The room went completely silent. "We have talked for 3 full cycles," Veltar said. His voice was deep and echoed through the hall. "We have looked at all the facts. We have heard all the arguments. Today we give our decision about the human problem." Jiho felt his stomach tighten. The human problem. 3 months ago, humans were partners. They were friends. They were helpers and traders and scientists. Now they were a problem. Humans came to our galaxy 50 years ago, Veltar continued. At first we welcomed them. They seemed harmless, small, weak. We thought they would learn from us and become peaceful like the rest of us. Nari stopped writing. Her hand tightened on her pen. But humans did not become peaceful, Veltar said. His skin got darker. They spread to every system. They built colonies without asking. They made weapons. They competed with each other, and with us. They fight wars among themselves even now. Jiho wanted to stand up and argue. Yes, humans had conflicts. But they also built hospitals. They shared their medicine. They saved dying worlds and helped species that others had given up on. Why did the Council only see the bad things? Worse, Veltar went on, they have corrupted our young people. Alien children now want to be like humans. They want to compete. They want to win and lose instead of sharing everything. They ask questions instead of accepting wisdom. This is not the galactic way. A Zephyrian in the 3rd row made a sound. Like water bubbling. Others joined in. It was the sound they made when they agreed with something. More aliens made their own agreement sounds. Clicks, hums, whistles, and chirps filled the air. Jiho looked at Nari. She was still writing, but her jaw was tight. He knew that look. She was getting angry. The Council has decided, Veltar announced. His 4 arms spread wide. Humans are too dangerous to remain free in our galaxy. But we are not monsters. We will not destroy them. Instead, we offer them a choice. Here it comes, Jiho thought. He had known this day would come ever since the complaints started. Ever since species began to fear human success instead of celebrating it. First choice, Veltar said, holding up one finger on each hand. Humans will return to their home system. They will stay there, no more colonies, no more expansion. Number. More interference with other species. The room was so quiet Jiho could hear his own heartbeat. Second, Veltar continued, all human technology will be shared with the Council. No more secrets, no more private research. Everything humans create belongs to all of us. Jiho's hands became fists. They wanted to take everything humans had built, everything they had discovered, all of it. Third, Valtar said, his voice getting louder, humans will accept genetic modification. We will remove the parts of human nature that make them violent and competitive. We will make them peaceful like the rest of us. The room exploded in agreement sounds. Aliens all over the hall showed their approval. They wanted to change what humans were at the most basic level. They wanted to make humans into something else entirely. This is not punishment, Valtar said over the noise. This is help. We want to save humans from themselves. We want them to find peace and harmony like all civilized species. Jiho stood up slowly. The room went quiet again. All eyes turned to him, 200 different kinds of alien eyes, all watching the human ambassador. May I respond? Jiho asked. His voice was calm and polite. Valtar's skin flickered between red and purple. You may speak, but the decision is final. The vote was unanimous. Every species agreed. Jiho nodded. He had expected that. He looked around the room one more time. These aliens had been his friends. He had shared meals with them. He had celebrated their holidays and learned their languages. He had thought they understood humans. He had been wrong. We understand the Council's position, Jiho said clearly. Every word carried through this silent hall. We understand that you see us as a threat. We understand that you want to change us into something we are not. He paused and looked directly at Valtar. We reject it entirely. The silence that followed was complete. No one moved. No one breathed. In 50 years of galactic politics, no species had ever simply said no to a council decision. Valtar's skin went from red to bright orange to yellow. Colors of shock and disbelief. You ... Reject it? Valtar stammered. This is not possible. The council speaks for all civilized species. Our word is law, not for us, Jiho said simply. He began gathering his papers from the table. We came here as equals. We thought you saw us as equals. We were wrong about that too. Nari stood up beside him. She closed her tablet and put it in her bag. Her movements were calm and controlled, but Jiho could see the fire in her eyes. You have 72 hours to reconsider, Valtar said. His voice cracked a little. Think about what you are choosing. Your species will be alone. Cut off. We will not trade with you. We will not share our knowledge. You will have nothing. Jiho picked up his last folder and looked at Valtar one final time. We won't need 72 hours, he said quietly. We don't need to think about it. He turned to Nari. She was already talking quietly into her communication device. Execute. Protocol 7, she whispered. All citizens, all colonies, all operations, we're going home. As the human delegation walked toward the exit, the aliens finally found their voices. Angry sounds filled the air. Shouts and demands in 100 languages. But Jiho and Nari kept walking. At the door, Jiho stopped and turned back one last time. Thank you, he called out over the noise. You've just given us the greatest gift possible. What gift? Valtar shouted back. Jiho smiled. It was not a happy smile or a sad smile. It was something else entirely. Freedom, he said. Then he walked out, leaving the council to watch in growing horror as they realized what they had just set in motion. Minho Lee stood on the observation deck of his office building and watched the sun set over New Seoul. The city stretched out below him for miles. Tall buildings made of glass and metal reached toward the purple sky. Flying cars moved between them like bright dots of light. It was beautiful. It was home. And in 3 days, it would be empty. Minho was the administrator of Kepler 442b, the most successful human colony outside of Earth. 2 million people lived here. They had built farms, factories, schools, and spaceports. They had made the desert planet green and full of life. Now they had to leave it all behind. His assistant, Su-min, walked up beside him. She was young, maybe 25, with worried eyes. "Sir, the evacuation reports are coming in. The first ships are already loading." Minho nodded but did not turn away from the window. "How are people taking it?" "Better than expected," Su-min said. "There was some panic at first. But when they heard what the council wanted to do to us, most people are angry now. They want to leave." "Good," Minho said. "Anger is better than fear." He finally turned to look at her. "What about our alien partners? The Zephyrians who run the water treatment plants, the Velkers who manage the spaceport." Su-min's face fell. "That's the hard part, sir. They don't understand. They keep asking why we're leaving. They say we can work something out. They say the council will change their minds." Minho felt sad but not surprised. The aliens had never really understood humans. They thought humans were just like them, but louder and more active. They did not see that humans were completely different inside. "Have you started the shutdown procedures?" he asked. "Yes, sir. All human technology is being removed or destroyed. Nothing will be left behind." Minho looked back out the window. In the distance, he could see the great farms that fed half the planet. Human engineers had designed the irrigation systems. Human scientists had created the soil treatments. Human farmers had learned how to grow earth crops in alien dirt. Soon, all of that knowledge would be gone. "Sir," Su-min said quietly, "what will happen to the aliens here? Without our systems, without our expertise, they'll figure it out." Minho said, "They're smart. They'll find a way." But even as he said it, he knew it was not true. The aliens had become dependent on human innovation. They had stopped learning how to solve problems themselves. When the humans left, many would suffer. "It's not our responsibility anymore," he added, trying to convince himself as much as Su-min. Across the galaxy, the same scene was playing out. On 100 worlds. Dr. So-young Choi stood in her laboratory on Research Station Alpha, orbiting the red dwarf star Proxima Centauri. The lab was full of amazing equipment. Microscopes that could see individual atoms. Computers that could process information faster than any alien technology. Medical devices that had saved thousands of lives. That all of it was about to be destroyed. "Doctor, please," her research partner begged. Kethan was a Thaxan, an insect-like being with 6 arms and compound eyes. "We are so close to a breakthrough. The cure for Redwing Plague is almost ready. If we destroy this research now..." So-young looked at the data on her screen. Kethan was right. They were close. The plague had killed millions of Thaxans over the past century. Her research could save them all. But she had her orders. "I'm sorry, Kethan," she said. "I truly am." She pressed a button on her console. Every screen in the lab went dark. Months of work vanished in seconds. The computers that held the cure for a deadly disease were now empty. Kethan made a sound. Like breaking glass. It was how Thaxans cried. "Why?" he asked. "We were friends. We were partners. Why would you destroy something that could save my people?" So-young felt tears in her own eyes. "Because your council decided we were too dangerous to exist as we are. They want to change us into something else. We won't let that happen. But the cure... Your people will have to find another way," So-young said. "You're brilliant scientists. You can do it without us." She knew that was probably not true. The cure required human intuition and creativity. It required the ability to think outside the rules. Aliens were smart, but they followed patterns. They did not take the wild risks that humans did. Kethan left the lab without another word. So-young finished wiping the computers and then sat alone in the dark. In 6 hours, she would be on a ship heading back to Earth. Everything she had worked. FO would be gone. Captain Dong-Yoon Song got the message while his ship was in hyperspace. The Soul's Pride was a massive cargo vessel, one of the biggest in the human fleet. Its holds were full of medical supplies heading for the Outer Rim colonies. "Sir," his communications officer called out. "Priority message from Earth Command." "It's marked Protocol 7. Dong-Yun felt his stomach drop. He had hoped it would not come to this. "Put it on screen." The message was short and simple. "All human vessels return to Sol System immediately. Cease all trade and support operations. Bring nothing to alien worlds. Take nothing from them. Effective immediately." Dong-Yun stared at the message for a long moment. Then he looked at his cargo manifest. The holds were full of antibiotics, surgical equipment, and emergency food supplies. They were headed for 3 colonies hit by natural disasters. Without these supplies, thousands would die. His first officer, Ji-Wan, came up beside him. "Sir, what are your orders?" "Set course for Earth," Dong-Yun said quietly. "But sir, the colonies ... "I know." Dong-Yun's voice was hard. "But we have our orders." 2 hours later, they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian system. 3 ships were waiting for them. Zephyrian rescue vessels, desperate for the supplies and Sol's pride. The communication came immediately. "Captain Song, this is Rescue Commander Blubbeth. We have been waiting for your medical supplies. Our people are dying. Please dock with us immediately." Dong-Yun looked at his crew. They all knew what was in the cargo holds. They all knew what would happen if they left. "Negative, Commander," Dong-Yun said. "We are returning to Earth. We cannot transfer cargo." "What? But we have a contract. We have paid for these supplies. The contract is void. All human-alien agreements are now terminated." There was a long silence. Then Blubbeth's voice came back, confused and desperate. "But our people will die without these medicines. Surely. You cannot just leave us to die?" Dong-Yun closed his eyes. "I'm sorry, Commander. Take it up with the Galactic Council. They made this choice, not us." He cut the communication and ordered his ship to jump to hyperspace. Behind them, the Zephyrian rescue ships watched in horror as their only hope disappeared into the void. Back on Earth, Admiral Seok-Jin Yoon stood in the command center and watched the reports come in. Green lights appeared on his display as human. Ships and colonies reported successful evacuations. Red lights showed alien worlds that would soon be in trouble without human support. "Sir," his aide reported, "we're getting messages from alien governments. They're asking us to reconsider. Some are offering to negotiate with the Council on our behalf." "Too late," Yoon said. "The Council made their decision. Now they get to live with it." "But sir, the humanitarian crisis." Yoon turned to face his aide. "The Council called us violent and dangerous. They said we were corrupting their children. They wanted to change our DNA to make us more like them. Did they think about humanitarian crisis then?" The aide looked uncomfortable but nodded. "Besides," Yoon continued, "they said they didn't need us. They said we were primitive and violent. Now they get to prove how much better they are without." U.S. A new message came in. Yoon read it and smiled for the first time in days. "What is it, sir?" "Ambassador Kim just left the council chambers. The aliens are starting to panic. They're realizing that maybe they made a mistake. Will we go back?" Yoon looked at the star map showing human space. Soon, all the green dots would be gathered. In one small area around Earth, humanity would be alone again. But they would be free. "No," he said. "We're done with them. It's time for humanity to find its own way." As the last human ships left alien space, the galaxy began to change. Supply chains broke down. Research projects stopped. Trade routes collapsed. The great galactic civilization started to crack. And in the council chambers on Nexus Prime, Speaker Veltar stared at the reports and began to understand what humanity walking away really meant. Engineer Taiwan Pak had been gone for exactly 7 days when the Centauri shipyards began to fall apart. "Chief," Engineer Vextai stood in the main control room and stared at the screens in confusion. The shipyard was the biggest construction facility in the galaxy. It built starships for 200 different species. For 30 years, it had run perfectly. Now nothing worked right. The efficiency ratings are down 60%, his assistant reported. Production has almost stopped. Vextai's forearms twitched with frustration. He was a Velker, one of the smartest species in the galaxy. His people had been building things for thousands of years, but he could not understand what was wrong. "Run! The diagnostic again," he ordered. "Sir, we've run it 20 times. The computers show no problems. The machines are fine. The materials are good, but we cannot build ships like we used to." Vextai looked at the empty workstation where Taiwan used to sit. The human had been the liaison between the alien workers and the construction systems. He had seemed like just a translator at first, someone to help communication between different species. But now, Vextai was beginning to understand that Taiwan had been much more than that. "Get me the production files from last month," Vextai said. His assistant brought up the data on the main screen. Vextai studied the numbers carefully. Last month, they had built 47 ships. This month, they had completed 18. The difference was obvious, but the reason was not. "Sir," another worker called out, "Section 7 is reporting another problem. They cannot figure out how to install the quantum drives in the new cruiser design." Vextai felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "But we have built quantum drives thousands of times. Not like this one, sir. This design requires a new installation pattern." The human had the specifications. Vextai closed his eyes. Taiwan had not just translated languages. He had translated ideas. He had taken complex human engineering concepts and explained them in ways that aliens could understand. Without him, the aliens could not use human technology. "Sir, there's more," his assistant said quietly. "The efficiency algorithms that control the assembly lines, they're human designed. We don't understand how they work. We just followed the instructions Taiwan gave us." The cold feeling in Vextai's stomach got worse. "Are you telling me that a human was running our shipyard?" "Not running it, sir, but making it work better. Much better." Vextai sat down heavily in his chair. The pride of Velker engineering was dependent on one small human who had seemed unimportant. Now that human was gone, and Vextai did not know how to fix anything across the galaxy. The same realization was happening everywhere. On the medical station orbiting Rigel, Dr. Zethmar faced an even worse crisis. The station treated patients from 17 different species. Each species had different biology, different diseases, different needs. For 5 years, the station had run smoothly. Now it was chaos. "Doctor, we have another outbreak," Nurse Kilsa reported. "Feverish rot is spreading through the Thaxan quarters." Dr. Zethmar felt helpless. Feverish rot was a common Thaxan disease. It should have been easy to treat. But the medicine they needed was not working. "Have we tried the standard antibiotic?" he asked. "Yes, sir." "No effect. The disease seems to be resistant." Zethmar stared at his computer screen. 6 months ago, Dr. Haijin Nam had developed a universal antibiotic that worked on all 17 species. It had been a miracle drug. One medicine that could treat diseases across multiple alien biologies. Now Haijin was gone, and Zethmar could not make the antibiotic. He had the formula, but it did not work when he tried to create it. Something was missing. Some step or ingredient that only Haijin knew. "Sir," Kilsa said quietly, "the Zephyrian patients in Ward 4 are getting worse too. The breathing treatment is not working." "Which treatment?" "The one Dr. Nam created for aquatic lung disease. It worked perfectly before." Zethmar felt panic rising in his chest. Every breakthrough, every new treatment, Every medical advance of the past 5 years had come from human doctors working with aliens. The aliens had provided knowledge of their own biology. The humans had provided creativity and new ways of thinking. Without the humans, the aliens could not recreate the treatments. They could follow old procedures, but they could not innovate. They could not adapt. They could not solve new problems. How many patients are we losing? Zephmar asked. Kilsa looked at her tablet. 37 died yesterday, sir. 54 today. The number is growing. Zephmar closed his eyes. In 1 week, more patients had died than in the previous 6 months. All because one human doctor was no longer there to help. On the trading station Nexus Minor, Economic Coordinator Blixuth was discovering that the galactic economy was collapsing. The trade routes are breaking down, his analyst reported. Ships are not delivering goods. Contracts are being canceled. The whole system is failing. Blixuth studied the economic data on his screens. For 50 years, galactic trade had grown every year. Species traded with each other, shared resources, and built prosperity together. Now everything was falling apart. Why? He asked. What changed? The humans, sir. They were the middlemen in most of our major trade deals. Blixuth looked confused. Middlemen? Yes, sir. They found buyers for products that species could not sell. They identified needs that species did not know they had. They connected markets that would never have found each other. The analyst brought up a trade network diagram. Lines connected different star systems, showing the flow of goods and services. Most of the lines went through human-controlled stations and worlds. The humans were risk-takers, the analyst continued. They would try new things. They would invest in projects that seemed impossible. They made profits where others saw only problems. Blixuth stared at the diagram. Without the human connections, the trade network looked like a broken web. Species that had depended on each other could no longer communicate or coordinate. What about the Galactic Bank? Blixuth asked. Collapsing, sir. The bank's investment strategies were designed by human economists. Without them, the bank does not know how to evaluate risks or opportunities. Blixuth felt the same cold fear that was spreading across the galaxy. The aliens had thought they were helping the humans by including them in galactic civilization. Now they realized that the humans had been holding galactic civilization together. Back on Nexus Prime, Council Speaker Veltar received the reports with growing horror. 60% drop in shipbuilding, his aide reported. Medical crisis on 14 major worlds. Economic collapse in the outer rim. Food shortages in the core systems. Veltar's skin shifted through colors rapidly. Red for anger, purple for fear, yellow for confusion. How is this possible? He demanded. Humans were only one species among hundreds. They were small. They were new. How could they be so important? His military advisor, Vex High, activated a holographic display. It showed the scope of human involvement in galactic civilization. Red dots marked human colonies, human businesses, human research stations, human individuals working with alien organizations. Display was almost entirely red. They were everywhere, Vex High said quietly. In every industry, every research project, every major trade deal. We did not notice because they worked with us, not against us. They made everything better, so we stopped paying attention to how much we needed them. Veltar stared at the display, but they were violent. Competitive, they fought wars. Yes, Vex High agreed. And that made them willing to take risks that we would not take. It made them creative in ways we are not. It made them able to solve problems that we could not solve. Another aide rushed in with a new report. Sir, the defense grid in the outer rim is failing. Pirates are attacking civilian ships. We cannot maintain the quantum communication networks without human technicians. Veltar's skin went completely white. That was the color Velkers turned when they were terrified. "How long do we have?" he asked. "Before what, sir?" "Before everything falls apart completely." HFY looked at the data streaming across his screens. "At this rate, maybe 6 months, maybe less." Veltar sat down heavily in his chair. The great galactic civilization that had lasted for thousands of years was dying. And it was dying because they had driven away the one species that had been keeping it alive. "Can we contact them?" he asked. "Can we negotiate?" "We can try," HFY said. "But sir," they said no to our ultimatum. They walked away from everything they had built. "Do you think they will come back just because we ask?" Veltar did not answer. He stared at the red dots on the holographic display and realized that the Council had made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had let the humans walk away, and now they were all going to pay the price. 2 months after the humans left, Ambassador Kyungmin Shin stood on the observation deck of the Earth Defense Station and watched alien ships approach the edge of Sol system. They came not as conquerors or diplomats, but as beggars. The defense station was new, built in the weeks after humanity's withdrawal. It was massive, bigger than any alien structure, and it bristled with weapons that no alien had ever seen before. Behind it, patrol ships moved in perfect formation. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer defenseless. "Sir," his aide reported, "we have 5 alien vessels requesting permission to enter the system. They say they have urgent business." Kyungmin looked at the tactical display. 3 Zephyrian ships, 1 Velker cruiser, and a Thaxan medical vessel. All of them were broadcasting distress signals. "Let them approach, but keep them at the boundary," Kyungmin ordered. "I'll speak with them here." An hour later, the alien representative stood in the station's meeting room. Kyungmin had known most of them for years. They had been friends once. Now they looked desperate and afraid. The Zephyrian representative, Blubbeth, spoke first. His water tank was cloudy, which meant he was very stressed. "Ambassador Shin," Blubbeth began, "my colonies are dying. The plague that Dr. Choi was treating has returned. Thousands of my people die every day. We need the medicine. We need her help." Kyungmin's face showed no emotion. "I'm sorry to hear about your troubles. Have you consulted with the Galactic Council's medical experts? We have tried everything." Blubbeth's voice bubbled with desperation. "The Council doctors cannot recreate Dr. Choi's treatments. They do not understand how human medicine works." "That is unfortunate," Kyungmin said calmly. "But I'm sure your own doctors can find a solution. After all, the Council said humans were primitive and dangerous. Surely your advanced species can solve this without our help." The Velker representative Kextai stepped forward. "Please, Ambassador. We know we made mistakes, but innocent people are dying." "Innocent people," Kyungmin repeated. "Were humans not innocent when the Council decided to change our genetics? Were human children not innocent when you called them corrupting influences?" Kextai's skin flushed dark blue with shame. "We were wrong, we admit it. But surely you will not let billions die because of our mistakes." Kyungmin walked to the window and looked out at the alien ships. They looked small and fragile compared to the human defense platforms. "The Council made its position very clear," he said. "Humanity is too dangerous to be allowed freedom in the galaxy. We are too violent, too competitive, too individualistic. The Council wanted to fix us by force." He turned back to face the aliens. "Well, you got your wish. You no longer have to deal with dangerous humans. You are free to build your perfect, peaceful civilization without our interference." The Thaxan representative, Kefter, made the sound his species made when crying. "But we cannot do it without you. We tried. Everything is falling apart." "Then you should try harder," Kyungmin said. "The Council believed you were superior to humans in every way. This should be easy for you." Blubbeth moved forward in his tank. "Name your price," What do you want? We will give you anything. There is no price, Kyungmin replied. This is not a negotiation. The council made a choice. You all supported that choice. Now you must live with the consequences, but we can change the decision. Kexdai said desperately. The council can withdraw the ultimatum. Kyungmin smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Too late, you see. We have made our own decision. We choose to honor your wishes. You wanted to be free of human influence. We are giving you exactly what you asked for. He pressed a button on his desk. Security guards entered the room. Please escort our guests back to their ships, Kyungmin said. And remind them that the Sol system is now off limits to all alien vessels. As the aliens were led away, Blubbuth called out desperately, Please, my children are dying. Kyungmin did not answer. He watched from the window as the alien ship slowly turned and headed back into deep space. Behind them, human patrol ships followed to make sure they left. On Nexus Prime, Council Speaker Veltar was facing the worst crisis in galactic history. His office was full of panicked representatives from dozens of species. The Outer Rim colonies have gone dark, one representative reported. Without human-maintained communication networks, we cannot contact them. The core systems are running out of food, another added. The agricultural programs were all human-designed. We cannot replicate them. Pirate attacks have increased by 400%, a third voice said. The human patrol routes are empty. No one is protecting the trade ships. Veltar's skin was a sick gray color. He had not slept in days. What about our own military? Can't we provide security? His military advisor, HFY, shook his head. Our ships cannot cover the distances that human patrols used to cover. Humans were willing to go into dangerous areas that we avoid. They took risks that we will not take. So hire mercenaries. With what money? The galactic economy has collapsed. The banks are failing. The currency exchange rates are chaos without human traders to stabilize them. Veltar put his head in his hands. How did this happen? How did one species become so important that we cannot survive without them? Because we let them do all the hard jobs, HFY said quietly. We let them take all the risks. We let them solve all the problems that we did not want to solve. We thought we were using them, but they were holding everything together. A new representative burst into the room. It was Zillaneth from the Rigel Medical Consortium. Speaker Veltar, she gasped, you must do something. The medical crisis is spreading. 17 worlds are now under quarantine. We estimate 50 million deaths in the next month if we cannot get human medical assistance. We tried, Veltar said wearily. They refused to help. Then force them. HFY laughed bitterly. Force them? Have you seen their new defense systems? They have technologies we have never seen before. Their home system is more heavily defended than our core worlds. But they were peaceful, Zillaneth protested. They never showed aggressive military capabilities. Because they never needed to. HFY explained. They were part of our civilization. They trusted us. Now they don't trust us, and we are seeing what humans can do when they decide to protect themselves. Veltar stood up and walked to his window. In the distance, he could see ships arriving and leaving the station. But there were far fewer than usual. Trade was dying. Communication was breaking down. The great galactic civilization was becoming a collection of isolated, struggling worlds. What if we apologize? He asked. What if we admit we were wrong? We tried that, HFY reminded him. Ambassador Shin was very clear. They are not interested in apologies. Then what do they want? Nothing, HFY said. That is the problem. They don't want anything from us anymore. They have decided they are better off without us. Veltar felt a chill run through his body. For thousands of years, the Council had been the center of galactic civilization. Every species wanted to join. Every world wanted to be part of the great community. Now, for the first time, a species had chosen to leave, and they were thriving without the council. "Sir," his aide interrupted, "we are receiving reports of new human colonies." "What? Where?" "Beyond the galactic rim. They are exploring regions we have never entered. They are building settlements and systems we considered too dangerous or too remote." Veltar's skin went white again. "They are expanding? Even after we told them to stay in their home system." "Sir, they never agreed to stay in their home system. They only agreed to leave our space. Apparently, there's a lot of space beyond our borders." The room went silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Humanity was not just surviving without the galactic civilization. They were growing. They were exploring. They were doing things that the council species had never dared to try. "Sir," HFY said quietly, "there is something else. Our intelligence reports suggest that humans are making contact with species beyond the rim. Species we have never met. What kind of species? We don't know. But the humans seem to be building new alliances, new trade partnerships. They are creating their own civilization out there." Veltar sat down heavily. The horrible truth was becoming clear. The council had not just lost humanity. They had pushed humanity to create a rival civilization. A civilization that might be more successful than their own. "Can we compete with them?" he asked. HFY looked at the report streaming across his screen. Economic collapse, medical crisis, communication breakdown, security failures. "Sir," he said honestly, "we cannot even keep our own civilization running without them. How can we compete?" Veltar stared out at the dying galaxy and realized that the council had made the worst mistake in galactic history. They had let the humans walk away, and now the humans were building something better without them. 6 months after the ultimatum, Council Speaker Veltar stood in the docking bay of the Earth Defense Station. He looked very different from the proud leader who had delivered humanity's punishment. His silver skin was dull and gray. His forearms trembled slightly. His once bright eyes were dim with exhaustion and defeat. Behind him stood a small group of alien representatives. They were the survivors of the galactic civilization that was now collapsing. Each one looked as desperate as Veltar felt. The human delegation entered the docking bay with calm confidence. President Minji Han led them, flanked by Admiral Seok-jin Yoon and Ambassador Kyungmin Shin. They looked healthy, well-rested, and completely in control. The contrast was shocking. 6 months ago, the humans had been the ones standing before alien judgment. Now the roles were completely reversed. "Speaker Veltar," President Han said politely, "this is unexpected. I thought the council had made it clear that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed in galactic space." Veltar's skin flushed with shame. "President Han, we have come to reconsider our position." "Reconsider?" Han raised an eyebrow. "I was under the impression that the council's decision was final. The vote was unanimous, I believe." "Things have changed," Veltar said quietly. "The situation in the galaxy has become difficult." Admiral Yoon stepped forward. "How difficult?" The Zephyrian representative, Blubbeth, spoke up from his mobile water tank. "Please, Admiral, our colonies are dying. Billions of people are suffering. The medical crisis alone has killed over 100 million beings." "That is terrible," Han said, but her voice showed no emotion. "Have you consulted with your own medical experts?" "We have tried everything." Blubbeth's voice bubbled with desperation. "But we cannot recreate the treatments that human doctors developed. We need your help." "Our help?" Han looked genuinely confused. "But the council determined that human medicine was primitive and dangerous. Surely your advanced species can develop better treatments on your own." Veltar stepped forward. "We were wrong. We admit it. Humans are not primitive. Human medicine, human technology, human innovation. We need all of it. Interesting, Han said. She walked to a large window that showed the space around the defense station. Tell me, what else do you need? The Velker representative Kexdai spoke up. The shipyards have stopped working. We cannot build vessels without human engineering expertise. The trade networks have collapsed, added a Faxon. We cannot manage interstellar commerce without human traders and economists. The communication systems are failing, said another alien. We cannot maintain the quantum networks without human technicians. Han nodded as if she was learning something new. So you need human engineers, human doctors, human traders, human technicians. What you're saying is that you need humans. Yes, Veltar said desperately. We need humans. We need humanity back in the galactic community. Han turned away from the window and looked directly at Veltar. But we don't need you. The silence that followed was complete. The alien stared at her in shock. What? Veltar stammered. We don't need you, Han repeated calmly. You see, we've had 6 months to think about this. 6 months to discover what we can accomplish without council regulations, without council oversight, without being told that our nature is wrong and dangerous. She activated a holographic display that filled the center of the room. It showed a star map, but not the familiar galaxy that the aliens knew. This map showed regions beyond the galactic rim, areas that the Council had never explored. These are our new colonies, Han explained. 47 worlds in 6 months. We've discovered resources you never knew existed. We've made contact with 12 new species who are eager to trade and learn from us. The aliens stared at the display in amazement. The human expansion was incredible, but that's impossible, Kexdai said. Those regions are too dangerous, too remote. No one has ever successfully colonized beyond the rim. Admiral Yoon smiled. No one has ever tried. You see, those regions require exactly the traits that the Council wanted to remove from humanity. They require risk-taking, competitiveness, and yes, even violence when necessary. They require the willingness to fight for survival and to never give up. The species we've met out there respect these traits, Han continued. They don't see them as flaws to be corrected. They see them as strengths to be admired. She changed the display to show economic data. Our new trading partners are more efficient than the old galactic markets. Our colonies are more productive. Our research is advancing faster than it ever did under Council restrictions. In short, Admiral Yoon added, we are better off without you. Veltar's legs gave out. He collapsed into a chair that one of his aides quickly brought forward. Please, he whispered. You cannot just abandon us. Billions will die. You abandoned us first, Han replied. You told us we were too dangerous to exist as we are. You tried to force us to change our fundamental nature. You gave us a choice, submit or leave. We chose to leave. But we were wrong. Yes, you were. But that doesn't change anything. The Faxon representative Kethter made a desperate sound. What about mercy? What about compassion? Are these not human traits as well? Han looked at him for a long moment. You're right. Mercy and compassion are human traits. But so is justice. And justice says that people must face the consequences of their choices. We could change the Council decision, Veltar offered desperately. We could withdraw the ultimatum. We could invite humanity back with full honors. Too late, Han said. Simply, you see, you taught us something valuable. You showed us that we don't need your approval to be who we are. You showed us that we can thrive without your acceptance. She gestured to the star map still floating in the room. Out there, beyond your galaxy, we found something better than the Council ever offered us. We found freedom. But what about the relationships we built? Blubith asked. The friendships? The partnerships? Did those mean nothing? Admiral Yoon answered. They meant everything. That's why your betrayal hurt so much. You were our friends, our partners, our allies. And when we needed your support, you turned on us. You decided that changing us was more important than accepting us. We were afraid, Veltar admitted. Afraid that humans would change us, make us more like you. And you were right to be afraid, Hun said, because that's exactly what would have happened. Not by force, but by example. Your young people were already starting to think differently, to question authority, to compete and strive for excellence. They were becoming more human. But that's not necessarily bad, Kextai protested. No, it's not, Han agreed. But it's not what you wanted. You wanted to keep your species exactly as they were. You wanted to remove the human influence. Well, congratulations, you succeeded. She moved toward the exit, signaling that the meeting was over. You got exactly what you asked for. A galaxy without human influence. Now you get to live in it. Wait. Veltar called out desperately. Name your terms. What do you want? Money? Territory? Technology? We'll give you anything. Han stopped and turned back. There are no terms, Speaker Veltar. This is not a negotiation. You made your choice 6 months ago. We made ours. Now we both have to live with the consequences. But surely there must be something. There is one thing, Han interrupted. Something you could do that might, someday, make a difference. Veltar's eyes brightened with hope. What? Anything? Learn to survive without us, Han said. Learn to innovate, to take risks, to solve your own problems. Become the advanced civilization you always claimed to be. Maybe then, in a few generations, we might consider you worthy of contact again. She headed for the exit again, but Veltar called out one more time. Why? He asked. Why won't you help us? You could save billions of lives. Han stopped at the doorway and looked back at the desperate alien leaders. Because you taught us the most important lesson of all, she said. You taught us that sometimes the only way to win is to walk away. As the human delegation left, the aliens sat in stunned silence. Outside the window, human ships patrolled the edge of Sol System. Beyond them, the galaxy continued its slow collapse. The last transmission from President Han echoed through the chamber. Thank you for setting us free. Admiral Yoon's voice followed. When you're ready to treat others as equals instead of subjects to be modified, you know where to find us. We'll be out there, building something better. As the alien ships limped back toward their dying civilization, humanity's vessels disappeared into quantum space, heading for the frontier beyond the galactic rim. Behind them, they left a galaxy, learning the hard way that some species cannot be controlled, cannot be changed, and cannot be replaced. The humans had walked away, and the council was left to watch in absolute horror as they realized what they had lost forever.